get you caught up on a little bit of what is trending. Great news from the world of NASCAR. Driver Ryan Newman has been released from the hospital, and some amazing news after that crash on Monday. Wednesday's update from Roush Fenway was accompanied by a photo of Newman leaving with his 2 daughters in hand. A previous statement on Wednesday said Newman was joking around with the staff, friends, and family while spending time playing with his 2 daughters. The photo of Newman and his girls in his hospital room was also posted. No details on his injury or a timetable for his return has been released. Ross Chastain will fill in for Newman at Sunday's NASCAR Cup Series race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We are certainly all happy to see him up, moving around, and most importantly, with his daughters. This is a thing. Former number 2 overall pick Greg Robinson was arrested yesterday after he was found with 157 pounds of marijuana.
Hey-o.
According to a criminal complaint filed by the DEA, a patrol checkpoint outside of El Paso, Texas, found several large duffel bags containing vacuum-sealed bags containing what tested positive as 157 pounds of marijuana. Robinson and fellow passenger Jaquan Tyreek Bray, who also played at Auburn before a brief stint in the NFL, were charged with conspiracy to possess marijuana with the intent to distribute and remain in jail without bond. When the DOJ and the DEA are the letters associated with you, you're probably not going to be playing in the NFL all that much longer. Yikes. And in the ever-changing world of men's college basketball, unranked North Carolina State beat the brakes off of number 6 Duke, 88-66 Wednesday night. According to ESPN stats and info, the game marked the first time an unranked team beat a top 10 Duke team by at least 20 points since 1979. Duke could not stop Markel Johnson. He had 28 points for NC State, including a banked-in runner from just beyond half court for a 44-29 lead at the half. NC State is right on the bubble for the NCAA tournament. After that win, our own bracketologist Joe Lenardi moved them from the last 4 out column to the last team in the tournament. ESPN's Basketball Power Index also improved their chances to make the tournament from 16% to 26%. Duke goes from 82% to 78% for their chance at a 1 seed. And that is what's trending, brought to you by Redbox. Don't miss award-nominated Ford vs. Ferrari, starring Matt Damon and Christian Bale. Rent it now at Redbox for under $2 a night.
Hi, Golic and Wingo here with you, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the show Pennzoil Performance Line. We got a bunch of guests coming up a little bit later on today, including Napkins of Integrity on a Thursday, ladies and gentlemen, as Mike Tannenbaum, our front office insider and former Jets general manager, will join us. I'm curious to get his take on what we're hearing about the negotiations between the NFL and the NFLPA, because the last time we did this, my God, it was a really, really, really long, drawn-out thing for the 2011 season where there were cutbacks and all that kind of stuff. It was all a bunch of window dressing at the end of the day, and it took a while, and it got done. It sounds like this one potentially could be done, the new CBA, very quickly.
It's always interesting, these work stoppages, because obviously my dad was a part of one back in the day where, they were actually picketing. They had guys crossing the line, all these different things. The 2011 CBA was the first time it became real for me, because that year it was a lot of my friends that were just the guys a year above me in college that were leaving school, a lot of guys that I knew that were going through that process, and a lot of whom, quite frankly, their careers were affected by their ability to be around those buildings in the offseason, the things that were a part of that. So very personal there, the way it is for all these guys getting ready to go through this potentially now.
So we'll have much more on that coming up in just a bit. But as you mentioned in the update there, it was a rough night for the Duke Blue Devils as North Carolina State potentially worked their way into the NCAA tournament, as you said, with Joe Lenardi, our bracketologist, putting them as one of the last 4 in. As for Duke, we've seen this before from this team, and Coach K basically tried to sum it up in this way. We're not that good.
We're not that good. We're good, and we've accomplished very good. And so we don't have the consistency of really good with every player. And that's, so they listened, but they also have won. I mean, that's if of all the maladies you could have, winning would be the best one, but it's still a malady. And tonight it was a horrible sickness for us.
It's interesting to hear him say that, because it reminds me of Nick Saban a lot. Hey, you keep telling these guys that they're good and they're not really doing the thing they're supposed to do and they're winning, it's like rat poison. He's basically just taking that message and packaging it in a different way.
Yeah, in a way that's more palatable to the
Than
Duke
rat
fan
poison,
base. Yeah,
yes.
exactly, to the Duke fan base and all that. But it is a reminder, like, this is what college basketball has been this season.
Yeah.
Right? It has been top teams, and now we've stratified a little bit getting towards the end of the year, but this really seems about as wide open a tournament field as we've had in a while.
Absolutely. Like for the most part of this season, the recurring theme in college basketball was it's the most times a top 10 AP ranked team has been upset by a non-ranked opponent, right? That's been the recurring theme. Oh, there's been one other recurring theme. Baylor basketball is dominant in both men and women. So as we get set to look forward towards what's happening in the NCAA tournament, Dickie V, who is the best team out there?
How could you not have Baylor as number one? Baylor's got to be the pick right now. Now, it may change this weekend when they face a really tenacious defensive team in Kansas. But I'm telling you, today, if you ask me, it has to be Baylor. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Tough defensively. They showed mental toughness on the road, beating Oklahoma the other night when people thought they might have been looking ahead to Kansas. So it's got to be Baylor, the Bears.
There you go. And I have no problem with that. I just want to be clear. But there is a big game coming up Saturday in Waco as Kansas will go down to Waco and take on Baylor, and Scott Drew and company are going to be primed for that. The Bears have been the one consistent thing in a college basketball season where we have seen just time and time again top teams find a way to lose. And here's the deal. I'm curious to see how this plays out going forward in the NCAA tournament, right? Because everyone says we want chaos. And then we get to the point where, yeah, we do until we just want to see our brand name teams, and that's where the eyeballs are.
Quite frankly, this is kind of my comp when we're getting ready to talk about the NFL's potential playoff expansion.
Right.
It's not always good to me. And I pretty much every spring go on record of saying that while March Madness and that term and what it's come to mean for all this is kind of symbolized by that idea. We love these underdog stories for the most part, these magical runs by Cinderella teams that make it to the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, hell, maybe even the Final Four, and, the Wichita States of the world from back in the day. And I always look at that and I say, yeah, with some exceptions, there are some teams like that end up being really good and competitive. A lot of times what it just opens you up to is the randomness of math. There are so many teams in this that, of course, like Duke last night, every once in a while, you can slip up. And what does that get us? A team that is markedly worse and has been over the course of a long season that we do, playing in meaningful games later on that end up making them actively worse. I want to see the really good teams all go up against each other. Now, maybe this year it'll be a little bit different because that's harder to exactly quantify. But, man, in general, it's just I think people forget how much of a math problem it is, and it doesn't get you a true champion. It just gets you the person that's left standing.
Right. It is in every way an imperfect way, but we celebrate the imperfectness because of the randomness of it, and that's what makes it fun.
People like feeling like everyone has a chance.
Correct. And it certainly feels that way more than any other time in recent memory, except, of course, it will be the Baylor Bears and Scott Drew cutting down the nets when it's all said and done. Come on, Scotty. Let's see what happens. All right, lots more coming on the negotiations between the NFL and the NFLPA and what's really at stake and what the most important thing is. We'll get to that next. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN2.